Join me in making my over-under bracelet. Check out all the materials below in the description. Just click on that Show More button and you'll find links to everything you're going to need. I'm going to start this bracelet by working down the center here with my 8mm pearls and my RounDuos and some seed beads. So I have all three of those beads out here. So I put my sample to the side, and I'm going to start with a stop bead. So for those of you who aren't familiar, I'm just going to pick up one of my seed beads here, leave a little bit of a tail thread, I don't need to leave a lot, and then just go back through that seed bead in the same direction so that your thread is actually circling around and catching around that bead. I'm going to pick up an 8mm pearl, one seed bead first. So I'm going to pick up the 11-0 seed bead first, and then a RounDuo, and then another 11-0 seed bead. I'm going to pick up another 8mm pearl, and then another 11-0, RounDuo, and 11-0. So once I have all these beads on my thread, I'm going to take my needle. I'm going to forget about that stop bead, so I don't need to use that stop bead. And I'm going to go through that 8mm pearl, the first one that I picked up. And this here is going to be what I continue building off of to make my spine, the center portion of the bracelet. I want to go back through all these beads again and reinforce this. Since this is the first section here, I want to make sure that I have a really good foundation, that everything is nice and tight, and that my thread isn't going to, I'm not going to have any slack in it later. And you can see that stop bead, when I give it a pull, when I give the thread that it's attached to my needle a pull, that stop bead should come in nice and tight next to your project. And that's exactly what you want. You want to make sure that you have no slack in your thread whatsoever. You want to make sure that this is all nice and tight. So now to build off of this and continue the base of my bracelet, I'm going to pick up one of my seed beads, one of my RounDuos, and another seed bead. I'm going to pick up another 8mm pearl, and you can see how this is you can see how this is all coming together here if I lay them out in the right direction here. And then over here I'm going to need another 11-0, a RounDuo, and another 11-0. And I'm just going to let that all fall down. So I've got all my beads right next to each other. I'm going to pass through the 8mm pearl here. So this is the second 8mm pearl from the end. And as I pull everything nice and tight, I now have added this little section onto the previous section, the foundation section that I started. So now my thread is coming out of that green 8mm pearl that I just took it through. I'm going to keep working to the end of the project here. So I'm just going to take my needle and thread and pass through all the beads that I already have picked up, so I'm not adding anything new. I'm just passing through the beads that I've already added until I pass through that 8mm pearl at the end of my project. And now I'm in position to add another section. Again, I'm just going to add an 11-0, a RounDuo, and an 11-0. And then the next piece for me to pick up here will be another one of my 8mm pearls. and another 11 round duo, and an 11-0 seed bead here again. So those round duos are always going to have an 11-0 on either side of them. Pass through this 8mm pearl, and as I pull my thread tight, the new beads will come close to that 8mm pearl, and everything will get nice and tight and can add on to my project. I'm going to continue to the end here, so I'm going to continue until I pass through this 8mm pearl that I just added in this last step. Through my 11-0, through my round duo, and my 11-0. Nice. Give it a nice pull now and then, so you make sure you don't have any slack here as you work. And through that 8mm pearl. You can see it's pretty loose here. I don't want that. So I want to give everything a nice tight pull. And if you're having any difficulty with it being loose or having too much slack thread, just pass through these beads again. Just continue through your pearl, your seed beads, round duo, just as if you were adding them on again. And you're just passing through all those beads again. And what that does is just give you another round of thread in there to cinch and hold everything closer together and keep everything nice and tight. And then pass through that pearl again. And now we are in position to add another section here. Some more seed beads, round duo, pearl, another round duo. So continue building the space until you have it the length that you need for your bracelet. Remember to account for the clasp. The clasp on this one here will take up roughly an inch. I usually say about an inch for the clasp, because even though the clasp itself may not take up a whole inch, seed beads that you add at the end may also add to the length of your clasp, and generally an inch is about how much I add when I add a clasp. So continue until you get to the length that you need for your bracelet, and we will move on to our next step. I've made my bracelet about 23 pearls long. This one here is, I think, 21 pearls long, so this one I made a little bit longer, 23 pearls, and that's roughly what you're going to need. You'll need, of course, more pearls if you want to make it longer than mine. Mine's going to be about a 7.5 or 8-inch bracelet. So now that we've got our base, or our center portion here, the length that we want it, we're going to start adding the fringe or the layered embellishment on the side. On the sample here, I actually have layers of the embellishment. So we'll add the embellishment along the side here. We'll add one embellishment, and then we'll come in and we'll add the other embellishment in between it to give it that layered sort of stacked look. Coming out of the 8-0 here, or the 8mm check or 8mm pearl here at the end, I'm going to pass through the seed bead, and then I'm going to pass through the open hole of my round duo. So I'm going through the outermost hole of the round duo, the one that we haven't gone through yet. At this point here, I'm going to start adding one of my layers of trim or embellishment. I'm going to start here by picking up one 11-0, a crystal. This is a 4mm crystal bicone, 11-0, and a bicone, 11-0, bicone, and 11-0. So we have 3 bicones here with an 11-0 at the beginning and end and in between. So 3 bicones here with the 11-0s in between. I'm going to skip the next round duo, and I'm going to go through the third RounDuo. So I'm skipping the next RounDuo and going through the one after that. And this will add a little bit of a, it's not quite a fringe, but a little bit of an embellishment here around the edge. And I'm going to continue here doing this until I get all the way to the end. So again here, I'm just picking up an 11 bicone, 11 bicone, 11 bicone, and then we're going to end here with an 11. We're skipping this RounDuo here, and we're going through the next one. And remember, we're going through that outer hole of the RounDuo, the one that we have not gone through yet. So I'm going to continue adding my bicone embellishment here along the side, and then I'll move to the other side here and do the same along this side as well. So now I've done my embellishment on the one side, and I have to take my needle and thread and cross over to the next side of my bracelet to continue the embellishment there. I have an odd number of pearls running down the center here. So when I'm done with my last set of crystals that I'm adding, I'm actually going to have another RounDuo hanging out here because I have an odd number of beads running down the center here, and so that gives me this extra bead and extra RounDuo here. So what I'm going to do is take my thread and needle, and I'm going to pass through the seed beads, the seed bead next to my RounDuo here between my RounDuo and my pearl, and I'll go up through both of those seed beads and up through the RounDuo and through that seed bead, through the pearl, and now I'm back to where I started at the beginning of the last step that I started to add the embellishment. So now I'm going to pass through my 11-0 seed bead, and here's where I'm going to start by passing through that open hole of the RounDuo. If you have an even number of beads that running down the center here, if you have an even number of these pearls, you won't have to worry about jumping up to this last odd numbered or odd duck RounDuo here. You're just going to pass from one side to the other like I did here at the end. So now, starting on the other side, I'm going to continue and just the same steps that I did before. On the other side, I'm just picking up my series of 11-0s and crystals, passing or skipping over one RounDuo and passing through the next. So you can see here with that odd number of beads, my crystals on this side and this side are going to be offset from each other, which is fine. So I'm going to continue this all the way around, all the way down until I get to the end, and then I will continue on and add my next layer of embellishment. I've now completed the side embellishment here with the crystals on both sides of the bracelet. I'm going to move on now to work on that second embellishment, which is the embellishment that I'm going to create with my 3mm pearls. So I've put my crystals away and I just have my seed beads and my 3mm pearls. With my thread here coming out of my RounDuo, I'm going to pass through the 11-0, and this 11-0 is the 11-0 here to the left, right between the RounDuo and the pearl. And I'm going to pass through the pearl. And once I come out here on this side of the pearl, I'm going to pass through that 11-0, and this will be the 11-0 right between the RounDuo and the pearl here. And then I'm going to pass through that open hole in the RounDuo. And this is the RounDuo that I haven't used yet. So you can see this is the RounDuo that I skipped in the previous step when I was adding this crystal embellishment. So now I'm going to repeat the same steps that I followed in the last set of in the last section here. But what I'm going to do is replace those crystals with some pearls. So same instructions, just replacing the crystals with pearls. And we will need 4 pearls instead of 3 crystals because the pearls are going to be a little bit smaller. Pick up an 11-0, a pearl, an 11-0, a pearl, and continue this until you have 4 pearls on. And I've got my 4 pearls, and then I'm just going to end with an 11-0. So I'm always starting and ending with that 11-0 crystal, or with that 11-0 seed bead. So here, what I'm going to do now is, as I pass through the next RounDuo, I can see that my string of pearls and seed beads is sitting on top and overlapping my crystals. I'm going to take my thread, my needle and thread, and I'm going to sneak in under the crystals of the next embellishment and pass through the RounDuo. So what that does is it creates an over-under, so that this new line of beads that I'm adding is going over the top of the first embellishment and under the second. I'm going to pick up another set of pearls here, so another set of 4 pearls with those 11-0s in between. So I've got 3 pearls. I need 1 more pearl here, and don't forget those 11-0s, and then 11-0 at the end. And so my thread and my string of pearls is sitting on top here. So I'm going to go underneath with my needle, underneath the crystals, and through the RounDuo. And if I continue this, I will have a nice layered sort of spiraling embellishment all along the edge here. I'm going to continue this just in the same fashion that I did previously. I'm going to continue this side, and then I will move over to the other side here and add it again just like I did previously with these crystals, and just making sure that I am doing that over-under to overlap them as I go. I've completed the embellishment down the sides here, down the side of each side of my bracelet, and very full now. It's much fuller and has this nice layered spiraling look. Now I'm ready to add my clasp. I'm going to start here down at one end of my bracelet, and you want to use this very last 8mm pearl. You're going to take your needle and thread through that pearl. Now I added a new piece of thread. So what I did here was I just used this 11-0 seed bead that was right next to my 8mm pearl as the stop bead, since I'm using a new piece of thread. You can continue with the thread that you have if you think you have enough thread. I've gone through my seed bead, or through my 8mm pearl. I'm going to pick up 8 of my 11-0 seed beads. Let those fall down to the pearl. And then it doesn't really matter now if you pick up which side of the toggle you pick up. I'm going to work with this side. And you're going to go through the ring on your clasp. And then you're going to pass down through all 8 of those seed beads again and through the pearl. And as I pull this thread, I'll have pulled all that thread through nice and tight. And my clasp here is only attached on the one side so far. On this other side now, coming out the other side of the pearl, I'm going to pick up another set, or another group of of 8, 2 sets of 4, one group of 8 11-0 seed beads, and let that fall down. And again here, I'm going to go through the loop of my clasp and back down through all 8 of those seed beads. And I want to reinforce this, so I'm going to pass through my pearl again. Pass through all 8 of those seed beads again on one side, through the ring of the clasp, and back down through the 8 seed beads. Pass through the pearl again, and this will get me to the other side here where I'm just going to do the same thing through all 8 of those seed beads, through the ring of my clasp, and through all 8 of those seed beads again, down the other side here. So now I've reinforced this a couple times. Pass through your pearl one more time here. And I'm going to pass up through about 3 of my seed beads here. The first 3 of those 8 seed beads. And I want to cinch this and bring this together so it's not so open. I want to do something here to cinch this and bring it together a little bit. So you can pick up about 2 or 3 seed beads. I'm going to pick up 3 seed beads and let these 3 seed beads fall to the other side here, to the other set of 8 seed beads. And we're going to now pass down towards our project through the first or the last, however you want to think about it, through the same set of 3 seed beads just on the other side here in this other group of 8 seed beads. So we're using 3 seed beads to cross the gap there. And we're going to come back down through those 3 last seed beads on the other side of our group of 8. And again, if you want to reinforce this, you can by passing through that pearl again. That's one nice thing about the larger pearls too, is that you've got a little bit more room in those holes. And we're going to pass through again 3 seed beads. 3 seed beads there in the center that we want to kind of close and wrap around that pearl, and down through the last 3 seed beads on this side, and then we have a nice little ending here. Now you can make this shorter too. You don't need to have this much room. You can shorten this so it can be 5 or 6 or 7 beads. Not 8. I like the 8 though. I kind of like how it's going to elongate that at the end. And now at this end here, all I have to do is tie off my thread and burn it down. So all I'm going to do is simply here where I've used this bead as my stop bead, I can untangle or unwrap that thread from my bead, do a little knot, and burn that down. And all I'm doing here is an overhand knot. So nothing real fancy. Since we're going to be burning this down, the heat and the burn, the cauterization, will do the work that I need it to. And so my knot is really just to make a nice connection there and keep those pieces together to burn down. So there we go. There is the one end of the clasp. And now all I have to do is go to the other end here, repeat the same steps on this side for the bar, and then I will have a complete ready-to-wear bracelet. If you enjoyed the Over-Under bracelet, there are lots of other projects like this that you'll love on our YouTube channel. Subscribe and make sure you turn on your notifications so you'll be notified as soon as we have new videos.